Midnight in Savannah feels different. It's not just the humidity that clings to your skin, even in October. It's the silence. A silence that listens, watches, waits. And that night, it was listening too closely. The sound of tires from a police Dodge Charger echoed down Chatham Parkway, mostly empty at this hour. The radio hissed static. Officer Travis Malone tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, bored, impatient. He didn't like the late shift, unless it meant fewer witnesses. No supervisors, no camera over his shoulder. Then he saw it. A sleek black German sedan gliding through a yellow light without speeding up. Tinted windows, out-of-place license plate. A car too expensive for this side of town at this time of night. Travis squinted. He couldn't see who was driving, but something in him, something quiet and dangerous, lit up. He turned his squad car slowly, flicked on his lights, no siren, and muttered, "Let's see who you are, sweetheart." Inside the sedan, Judge Leona Harris kept her eyes on the road. She was exhausted, another late court session that ran long. In the back seat, her robe folded neatly. In her briefcase, files from one of the most sensitive cases of the year. And in her chest, not just fatigue, but history. The red and blue lights bloomed in her rearview mirror. She didn't speed up, didn't flinch. She pulled over smoothly, deliberately. Outside, Travis adjusted his belt, smoothed his uniform, checked his holster. He tapped the body cam on his chest, a dry click, then approached slowly, right hand grazing the grip of his gun. "Evening, ma'am. License and registration, please." Leona lowered the window, slowly, looked him directly in the eyes. Her voice was cool, steady, unmistakably in control. "May I ask the reason for the stop, officer?" For a second, Travis froze. Something in her tone, her posture, it didn't match what he expected, but he forced a smile. The kind that says, "I wear the badge, not you." Driving suspiciously, routine check. Leona raised an eyebrow. She didn't argue, but she didn't reach for her ID either. Instead, she pulled out a sleek, black federal ID from her coat pocket and held it out. Travis leaned in and read, "Hanan Leona Harris, United States District Judge, 11th Circuit, Georgia." Silence. But not the kind that fades. This was the kind before a storm. "Step out of the vehicle. Now." And just like that, everything began to unravel. "Step out of the vehicle. Now." The command cut through the night like a blade. Leona didn't move. Her hands remained calm in her lap. The ID still held out between two fingers. "Officer, are you issuing a lawful order, or just trying to intimidate me?" The question hung in the air, sharp and deliberate. Any trained officer would have backed off, or at least reassessed. But Travis Malone didn't back down. He leaned in closer, his knuckles whitening around his flashlight. "I said step out of the car. I don't care who you are." For a moment his eyes flicked to her expression. Calm, steady, unshaken. Something in that stare unnerved him. She wasn't scared, and that infuriated him. He stepped back, hand drifting toward his holstered weapon. That's when Leona, without breaking eye contact, quietly tapped the record button on her phone, mounted on her dashboard. A red dot blinked to life. Travis didn't notice, or didn't care. "You resisting a lawful command, Judge? You're a municipal officer, you have no federal jurisdiction, and right now you're violating every legal boundary you swore to uphold." Travis clenched his jaw. "You really want to bet your career on that, ma'am?" Leona, voice calm and unwavering. "No, officer. You should be betting yours." Another squad car pulled up, lights flashing. No siren. Officer Marcus Hill stepped out, younger, quieter, more cautious. He approached slowly, noting the tension in the air. "Everything okay here?" "She's refusing to comply. Claims she's a federal judge." Marcus stepped closer, glanced at Leona, then the badge, then the robe in the back seat. He didn't need more than that. He knew. But Travis wasn't done. "Step out, now, or I will remove you myself." Leona looked at Marcus, then at the camera on his chest, then back to Travis. "If you touch me, you'll face a civil rights lawsuit, personally. And I will make sure every second of this is on the record." Marcus swallowed hard. He stepped between them. "Travis, back off. Let's talk." "She's resisting. You want me to let her go?" "No, I want you to think for 5 damn seconds." But Travis was past thinking. He reached for the door, and Leona unlocked it first. She stepped out slowly. Hands up, compliant, calm, controlled. "I'm complying. Don't touch me." But compliance was never what Travis wanted. He grabbed her arm, shoved her against the hood of her own car, hard. The robe slipped to the ground. The ID skidded across the pavement. The phone kept recording. Leona didn't scream. She didn't cry. But her face said everything. Marcus moved fast. "Travis! That's enough!" "She's under arrest. Back seat." And Leona whispered, just loud enough for the cameras to hear, "You just became the face of what this country keeps pretending doesn't exist." And at that moment, this was no longer just a traffic stop. The street was dead quiet. Flashing red and blue lights bounced off warehouse windows. Time slowed, and Travis Malone, his hand still on his weapon, crossed the final line. "Hands on the hood! Now!" Leona didn't flinch. She kept her gaze forward, her voice low, firm. "You are detaining a federal judge without probable cause, on camera." Travis didn't care. He didn't see a judge. He saw defiance, and that was enough. He reached in, yanked the door wide, and grabbed her by the arm. "You're resisting. That's enough for me." "I'm not resisting. I'm warning you." He forced her out, spun her around, slammed her against the hood of her car. Rough, deliberate, public. Her robe fell to the ground. Her federal badge bounced once on the asphalt and landed face up. The camera, still recording from her dash, captured every movement, every word, every injustice. Marcus Hill stepped forward, fast. "Travis, stop! You've made your point." "She refused a lawful command. She's under arrest." "She's a damn federal judge. Are you out of your mind?" Travis's chest heaved. His voice was loud, shaking, not with fear but pride. He wasn't backing down, not in front of a woman like her, not now. Leona's hands were behind her back, tight zip ties digging into her wrists. She said nothing, not because she was broken, but because she knew silence, sometimes, can be louder than anything else. Marcus turned away in disbelief, pressed his body cam's alert function, red light blinking, sending footage directly to the server. Too late. It had already happened. The robe, the badge, the restraint. Leona was placed in the back seat of a squad car, her head held high. Not once did she yell. Not once did she plead. And in that stillness, Travis lost. The squad car's back door slammed shut. Judge Leona Harris sat inside, hands restrained, her eyes steady. Outside, Officer Travis Malone stood with his fists on his hips, pacing the sidewalk. His breathing was loud, erratic. His badge suddenly felt heavier than ever. Marcus Hill wasn't pacing. He was just standing there, staring at the ground like it might open up and swallow them both. Leona's robe still lay in the street. So did her badge. And her dignity. Still intact, because she hadn't given them the power to take it. Travis clicked his radio. Dispatch, one in custody. Female, possible resistance, requesting transport. Copy, confirm ID. He hesitated. Claimed to be a federal judge. Silence. Then the reply, confirming vehicle license, federal government registration. Registered to Judge Leona Harris, U.S. District Court, 11th Circuit. The world stopped. Travis's face drained of color. Marcus looked at him slowly, not with surprise, but with shame. "You knew. You saw the plate. You saw the robe." She was disrespecting me. She was informing you of the law." Travis didn't respond. He couldn't. In the back of the squad car, Leona watched them both through the window. Calm. Still. Waiting. Then she said, not to them, but to the camera mounted on the car door, "Now you know who I am. But what matters is how you treated me before you did." Marcus took a step forward, pulled the keys from his belt, walked around to the car. Travis stopped him. "What are you doing?" "What you should have done 5 minutes ago." He opened the door, looked at Leona. I'm sorry, Your Honor." He cut the zip ties. Her wrists were red and bruised. She didn't thank him, didn't nod. She simply picked up her robe from the sidewalk, brushed the dust off, straightened her shoulders. "The difference between us," she said to Travis, "is I go home with my dignity. You go home with this." She turned, got in her car, and drove off. But this wasn't over, not even close. The sirens had faded, but the damage hadn't. Leona drove in silence, her hands steady on the wheel, her jaw clenched. The robe crumpled in the back seat. The badge, dusty, sitting in her cup holder, her wrists stinging with every movement. But her mind was clear, focused. "This isn't about me," she thought. "It's about what happens when the law forgets who it's supposed to protect." Then her phone buzzed. A text from her niece. "Auntie? Is this you? This video's everywhere." Leona's chest tightened. She pulled over, opened the link. There it was. A 2-minute clip from her dash cam, posted by a Twitter account called JusticeWatcher77. Already at 38,000 views, and climbing. No news anchors, no lawyers, just the raw moment. Her calm voice, Travis's raised tone, the shove, the robe on the ground, the caption. He didn't see a judge. He saw a black woman. That was enough. Leona watched it once, twice, then closed her phone. She didn't cry. She didn't call anyone. She simply turned the key and kept driving. Back at the precinct, Travis sat alone in an interrogation room. His phone had been seized, his badge turned over. The captain's voice came through the speaker. "Malone, what were you thinking?" "She didn't tell me who she was. She had a government plate, a federal badge, a judicial robe in the back seat. I didn't see it. You didn't want to." Click. The audio cut out. Elsewhere, the story began to spread like wildfire. On Reddit, new video shows Savannah cop detaining a federal judge. On cable news, split screens of the footage and commentators saying, "How does this still happen?" On college campuses, students marched with signs saying, "If she wasn't safe, who is?" The symbols Travis dismissed, the robe, the badge, the plate, had become something bigger. Receipts, proof of what so many had said for so long, and finally, someone recorded it. Within 24 hours, Savannah wasn't just a city in Georgia. It was the epicenter of a storm. The video had gone from 38,000 views to over 300,000 in just 2 hours. And it wasn't just on Twitter anymore. CNN, MSNBC, BBC, Al Jazeera, TikTok edits, Instagram Reels, podcasts and live streams dissecting every frame. Reddit threads exploded. "She said it before he touched her. You're about to make the biggest mistake of your career." And she meant it. If that badge couldn't protect her, what chance do the rest of us have? On college campuses, law professors rewrote entire lectures to show the footage. At barbershops, churches, and dinner tables, people weren't just angry. They were remembering. Because this wasn't new. It was just finally on camera. From beginning to end. And not from some shaky bystander angle. From her camera, her voice, her restraint. News anchors debated. Commentators argued over proper police conduct. But the public had already decided. This was about race. This was about power And this time they messed with the wrong woman. Leona didn't post, didn't speak. She let the silence speak louder. And it did. Meanwhile, Travis Malone was placed on administrative leave. His home was surrounded by media trucks. His lawyer released a short statement. Officer Malone acted within protocol and was unaware of Judge Harris's identity at the time. But it didn't matter anymore. The world had seen it, and more importantly, believed it. That night, outside Savannah's courthouse, a crowd gathered. They held signs, lit candles, wore shirts that read, "We are all Leona." And though Leona wasn't there, her absence spoke louder than any speech. Sunday morning. No church bells, no traffic, just footsteps. Hundreds of them. They gathered in Johnson Square, a place soaked in the history of marches and pain. But today, it wasn't quiet grief. It was rising anger turned into organized resolve. Signs hand-painted the night before. If she filmed it, we believe it. Badge immunity. Respect the robe. Rebuild the badge. And in the center of it all, Leona Harris. No cameras, no robe, just a microphone in her hand and 1,000 people holding their breath. She stepped up on a crate. The crowd fell silent. "I'm not here for myself," she began. "I'm here for every mother who buried a child with no video, every brother who was cuffed and never got to speak, for everyone who didn't have a robe in their backseat to protect them." The crowd listened like it was gospel. What happened to me wasn't rare. What's rare is that you got to see it, and that I'm still here to speak about it. People nodded. Some cried. I didn't speak up before because I thought silence was dignity. I was wrong. Silence is complicity, and I won't be complicit anymore. The applause was thunderous. Phones in the air, live streams rolling. This moment wasn't just going viral. It was becoming history. From the back of the crowd, Officer Marcus Hill watched quietly, the only other person who'd been there that night. In his hand, a sealed envelope. He handed it to a civil rights attorney in the crowd. Inside, a copy of his body cam footage, a signed letter that read, "I should have stopped him. I didn't. This is me trying to start now." The city felt it. Deep. Old wounds ripped open, but finally being cleaned, not ignored. News coverage hit the national loop. Savannah protest swells after judge's viral detention. This isn't just about Leona, it's about us all. That night, 400 cities across the country held vigils, marches, or town halls, all sparked by one woman who refused to stay quiet. She didn't want fame, didn't ask for a movement, but the world had already decided. We're not going back to sleep. Before the robe, before the headlines, before the protests and hashtags. She was just a little girl in Macon, Georgia. Leona Harris was raised in a small house on Cedar Street. Her father, a Baptist pastor. Her mother, a school teacher who held reading circles in their kitchen. Their home wasn't wealthy, but it was filled with books, prayer, and purpose. Then came the day that changed everything. She was 10. Her father kissed her forehead, grabbed his Bible in one hand, and an American flag in the other. He was leading a peaceful march, asking for one thing, that black students in Macon get the same textbooks as the white schools. Nothing more. He never came home. 2 days later, his body was found by the Ocmulgee River. The report said, accidental drowning. But Leona knew better. Everyone did. From that day on, the siren wasn't just a sound. It was a trigger, a ghost, a threat. Her mother didn't let the pain break her. She turned their grief into a mission. Every night, she made Leona hold mock trials in the kitchen, defending imaginary clients, arguing over pretend cases. She'd say, "Justice doesn't start in a courtroom. It starts in a kitchen where a little black girl learns she has a voice." At 14, Leona stood by her father's grave and made a promise. I'll sit in a seat where no one can shut our voices down ever again. She worked like her life depended on it. And in many ways, it did. Spelman College, Howard Law, judicial clerkships. By 36, she was appointed a federal judge, one of the youngest and one of the few black women on the 11th Circuit bench. But she never forgot, never left the ghosts behind. So when Travis Malone told her, "Step out of the vehicle," and put his hand on his gun, she didn't flinch, because she'd already survived worse. And that night, she wasn't afraid. She was ready. Ready to be the voice her father never got to be. Ready to be the silence that refused to be quiet. Ready to show the country, a robe doesn't make you powerful. Living your truth does. The next morning, the district attorney's office in Savannah was on fire. Not literally, but it might as well have been. Phones ringing nonstop, emails flooding in, news crews camped on the front steps. Inside, District Attorney Andrew Langston was pacing. He'd seen the footage, he'd read the badge, he knew the law. And still, he hesitated. "Let's wait for the internal review," he told his staff. Murmurs around the room, uneasy stares, until Olivia Chen, head of civil rights litigation, stood up. "Respectfully, sir, this case isn't yours anymore. The city belongs to the people now. They're not asking, they're demanding." Langston rubbed his eyes. He'd built his career on caution, but this wasn't caution anymore. This was cowardice in a robe. Across town at the Savannah Police Department, things weren't any better. Internal Affairs had started an investigation, but not into Travis Malone's past, into who leaked the footage. They wanted to find the whistleblower, not the truth. And that said everything. Meanwhile, Travis was silent. His lawyer? Loud. Officer Malone had no way of knowing who she was. There was no racial motivation. This is media hysteria. But it didn't matter, because the country wasn't debating anymore. It was remembering. Trayvon, Sandra, Tamir, George, and now, Leona. The system had a choice: act or crumble in slow, shameful silence. That night the dam cracked. An anonymous letter appeared in the inbox of every major outlet. Subject line: "Not the first time." Signed, "An officer who's had enough." Inside: "Travis Malone has a history. This isn't new, it's just the first time a camera caught it." The city exploded. Shout Justice for Leona trended at number 1. Protests reignited. Students walked out. Veterans marched with signs reading, "Silence is a verdict." And the police chief tried to calm the fire. "We're investigating thoroughly. Please be patient." But patience was gone. And somewhere in D.C., in a hallway that smelled of old paper and power, Leona Harris's name had made its way to a short list. Not of victims, not of witnesses, but of nominees. Because when a system stalls, a movement accelerates. The law school auditorium at Savannah State was full. Not with students, but with community members, press, clergy, activists, and silence, the kind that waits for a single voice to cut through it. For days she had said nothing. Let the footage speak. Let the country decide. But now Leona Harris stood before the mic. No robe, no badge, just a black blouse, and truth. She scanned the room. No note cards, no teleprompter, just pain and purpose. "I've been quiet," she began. "Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew how heavy it would be when I said it. What happened to me wasn't rare. What's rare is that I survived it." The room leaned in. I was pulled from my car, thrown against a hood, cuffed with my robe in the back seat, and I wasn't surprised. Murmurs, a few tears. Because I've been a black woman in this country longer than I've been a judge. Let me be clear, I don't want that officer's head. I want his reflection, and I want this system to finally look in the mirror. She paused, held the weight of the room in her lungs. I wore that robe because I believed in justice, That night it was thrown on the pavement, but I picked it up and I put it back on, because you can't dirty something built in dignity. Now the applause was starting, slow at first, then rising, phone cameras shaking with emotion. I'm not speaking today because I need to be heard. I'm speaking for everyone who never was. This country cannot keep asking for calm without offering justice, cannot keep demanding order without offering respect, and cannot keep mistaking silence for peace. Standing ovation. Some cried, others just stood frozen, because they knew this wasn't a speech, it was a verdict of its own. By the next morning, the clip of her speech had reached 14 million views, dubbed in 5 languages, quoted on Senate floors, printed in newspapers around the world, and all across Savannah. A new phrase had appeared on murals, posters, and walls. The robe fell, but she didn't. 12 hours after Leona's speech, the U.S. Department of Justice released a statement. A formal federal investigation is now underway into the Savannah Police Department for potential civil rights violations. No more internal reviews. No more waiting. Federal agents arrived with clipboards and subpoenas, and the deeper they dug, the darker it got. Complaint reports that vanished. Body cam footage mysteriously deleted. Use of force incidents marked non-disciplinary without explanation. And at the center of many of those reports, one name, Travis Malone. 5 prior complaints. 3 marked no action taken. 2 were never logged into the public system at all. The response from the public was swift and unforgiving. Outside the precinct, protesters gathered again. But this time they weren't chanting names. They were holding up screenshots of the documents now leaked to the press. You protected him. Now protect us. Inside the department, lines were being drawn. Some officers defended Malone, but many stayed silent, and a few, a brave few, started to speak up. Officer Marcus Hill, who had released the footage from that night, was called to testify. He didn't hesitate. I didn't stop him when I should have. I froze. I failed. But I will not lie for him. Not now. Not ever. His words echoed, not just through the courtroom, but through every hallway where secrets had lived too long. Within days, the police chief was forced to resign. A civil rights commission launched its own parallel investigation, and the mayor, once silent, addressed the city. We failed Judge Harris, and we've failed many before her. This department is under reconstruction, from the top down. As for Travis Malone, he hadn't been seen in public, but one thing was confirmed. He had been officially charged, and in one corner of the city, far from the chaos, Leona sat in a classroom, not a courtroom, teaching a room full of teenage girls. One raised her hand. Miss Harris, do you think the system can ever really change? Leona smiled just slightly. It doesn't change by itself. It changes when we drag it, kicking and screaming into the light, like we're doing now. The courthouse steps were quieter than usual. No chants, no crowds, just cameras. Lots of them. Inside, District Attorney Andrew Langston was staring at a folder. A thick one, labeled in red. Malone, Travis. Inside were transcripts, body cam screenshots, forensic timestamps. But none of that was what weighed on him. What weighed on him was this. Everyone already knew what was in that folder. The question now was, what was he going to do about it? That morning, he stepped to the podium. Flashes fired, microphones hummed. After a complete review of the facts, the footage, and the testimony provided, this office is filing formal charges against former Officer Travis Malone. A wave of noise hit the room. He will be charged with abuse of power, aggravated assault, civil rights violations under federal statute, misuse of authority under Georgia state law. We will be requesting a trial by jury. Outside, a crowd had already gathered. Word had traveled faster than the live feed. Inside, Langston paused. Then, looking directly into the camera, "This is not about one officer. It's about whether this office serves the people, all of them, equally. Today, we begin proving that it can. Across the city, Leona watched the press conference in silence. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply whispered to herself, "Now, they'll have to listen under oath." Travis Malone's attorney called it a political stunt. My client had no way of knowing the woman's identity. He followed procedure. This is trial by media. But the footage said otherwise. The badge, the plate, the robe, and most of all, her voice, the judge assigned to the case confirmed. This trial will be public. Jury selection begins in 3 weeks. And yes, proceedings will be televised. The city held its breath. The country sharpened its focus. And Savannah braced for the kind of trial that doesn't just determine guilt, it decides what kind of justice system we really have. The courthouse was surrounded by cameras, by protesters, by people holding coffee cups and heavy memories. Inside, jury selection began. The courtroom was filled with potential jurors, each holding a summons, a silence, and a story. The defense had a strategy: find those who believed in order over outrage. The prosecution? They wanted people who knew that silence doesn't mean innocence. One by one, they were questioned. Do you believe the law is always right? Have you or someone close to you experienced a police encounter? Do you trust video evidence more than personal testimony? Have you already formed an opinion about Judge Harris? Can you separate race from law enforcement? Some were dismissed. Some were offended. A few cried. And slowly, a jury was formed. 12 people, 12 lives, 12 mirrors, a black high school history teacher, age 42, a retired white accountant, 67, a Latina ER nurse, single mother, 34, a veteran IT tech, 28, a law student and civil rights intern, 23, a conservative farmer from the outskirts, 70, a drag performer and activist, 36, a father of 3, firefighter, 38, a local Baptist pastor, 50, a librarian who had never served on a jury, 45, a retired black female police officer, 60, a truck driver who said he voted for everyone at least once, 58, a mosaic of beliefs, of histories, of contradictions. When the final 12 were seated, the judge looked up. You are now the soul of this courtroom. This trial is yours. In the back row, Leona Harris sat, silent. She wasn't there to sway. She wasn't there to react. She was there to watch. Because this time, the people weren't just watching her, they were watching themselves in 12 reflections. And soon, those 12 would answer one question: was what happened that night legal or just American? The court was full, not just the gallery, but the air, full of tension, full of expectation, full of history, sitting on the edge of its seat. The country was watching, on TVs, phones, classroom projectors, every word broadcasted, every silence amplified. The prosecution opened with one sentence. This is not just about what happened, it's about what was allowed to happen. The footage was played again, from the dashcam, from Marcus Hill's body cam, from Leona's phone, the shove, the silence, the stare. Leona took the stand, and didn't flinch once. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't resist, I didn't pull rank, and I still got pulled from my car. The defense tried to twist it. Were you not driving in an area known for criminal activity? Could your tone have been misinterpreted as confrontational? Did you identify yourself clearly and immediately? Leona's answer was simple. He didn't see a threat. He saw a challenge to his power. And he reacted. Officer Marcus Hill testified next. I froze. I shouldn't have. But I'm here now. And what I saw was wrong. Finally, Travis Malone took the stand. Tense, pale, avoiding eye contact. I was just doing my job. But when the prosecution asked, "Is doing your job supposed to feel like assault?" He paused, And that pause said more than anything else he had all day. After 4 days of testimony, 12 hours of closing arguments, and 2 short instructions from the judge, the jury was dismissed to deliberate. 7 hours passed. The crowd outside grew. Rain began to fall, but no one left. Inside the courtroom, the judge returned. The jurors filed in. 12 faces, unreadable. The bailiff took the envelope. In the matter of the state versus Travis Malone, on all counts, a pause. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. The room exploded. Gasps, tears, hands over mouths. Travis didn't move. Leona didn't blink. She simply turned to the judge, nodded once, then stood, and walked out. Outside, the crowd burst into chants, not of hate, not of vengeance, but of relief. Justice isn't perfect, someone shouted, but it showed up today. And as Leona disappeared into the rain, robe folded under her arm, the nation breathed out. Travis Malone was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. Not quickly, not hidden, just visibly, deliberately. Cameras followed every step, but no one cheered, no one jeered, because this wasn't a celebration. It was a correction. Inside, court staff gathered Leona's belongings. Among them, her robe, folded, this time with care. That same robe, once thrown to the ground, was now a symbol being placed in protective glass at Savannah State's law building. Under it, a plaque read, "She didn't raise her voice, so the country raised its own." Outside, Savannah paused. The city stood still, not in fear, but in respect. For Leona, for the jury, for what had been revealed. And then the silence broke, not with shouting, but with songs, hymns, voices rising from steps, streets, balconies. Church bells rang, families hugged, teachers rewrote their lesson plans. In schools, students watched the speech again. In homes, parents told their children, "That's how you stand without shouting. That's how justice sounds." Leona declined all interviews. She turned down book deals, TV offers, podcasts. She accepted only one invitation, to speak at a community night class on justice and civil rights. Her fee? Free. She stood in front of 27 students, ages 16 to 60, and asked, "What does justice look like?" Someone answered, "A trial like yours." Leona smiled. That was accountability. Justice is what you do next. And what came next was this. Savannah passed new body cam transparency laws. 3 officers resigned voluntarily. Civilian oversight boards were formed. The DOJ launched a national audit of 17 departments. And in Washington, her name reappeared, on a new list, not as a victim, not as a witness, but as a candidate for the highest bench in her state. And the people chanted again, this time not with protest, but with hope. She stood for us. We'll stand for her.